Hi, Andrew. In your email, you mentioned that you struggle with pushes to the right, and oftentimes you feel stuck on the downswing. So, I want to shed some light on what I believe to be the reason behind that. First of all, I would say that you do a lot of things really nice in your swing here. The arm structure, and your backswing, the hand path depth, the wrist alignment. You get the club into a pretty good spot at the top of your backswing. From down the line view, this all looks really, really good. Where I see the issues in your golf swing are more from this face-on view over here on the right. And I just want to call a couple things to your attention. So the first thing that kind of stands out to me in the backswing is that your pelvis turns very, very level. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of extension going on of the trail leg. The right hip is not working up and back, and the left knee is not flexing and internally rotating enough to be able to drop the left side of this pelvis. Now, dropping the left side of that pelvis is very, very important because at the top of the backswing, we want to establish an inclination. And you'll notice that you have little to no inclination at the top. In fact, I would almost say that your left hip is higher than your right hip at this point. And that trend should be completely reversed. And it should be reversed because the left knee should be bending and flexing and moving internally. And so I'll give you an example of what that should look like. So if we take a look over here on the left at Sam Snead, you're going to notice in the backswing as he rotates, it's very easy to see because he's wearing gray trousers and a white top, but already he's starting to establish some tilt to the pelvis here. And the reason for that is I want you to watch the movement of his left knee, of how it's internally rotating and flexing as the pelvis rotates to the top. And so when he gets to the top of his backswing, you can see that he's really, really created some inclination or some sort of downward trajectory of the pelvis in the backswing. And that's very, very important. I want you to essentially think of it as he has created an angle with which he can kind of fall off of. And I use the word fall because that is the opposite of pushing off of your right side. And I see far too many golfers who push off of their right side, and what they end up doing is shoving their hips forward and their spine tilts back. And what that truly affects is your ability to rotate. And so I'm using Snead here as an example because he's got sort of the model of inclination that I'd like to see for you. And in your case, we're missing that. And so I'll pull you back up here down the line because I want to make this connection for you. So again, you got to the top of the backswing in a pretty solid position. Now it's back over here on this face-on view because you have no inclination of the pelvis. Your left knee hasn't moved in. You are now going to start pushing off this right side at an angle, and that's going to further precipitate this poor transition move. So you can see how quickly the hips move forward, the left shoulder works up, and the right shoulder drops. And what that does from this down the line view is your hand path stays in, the club shallows, the arm structure is pretty good, but the problem is that the body can't rotate well enough for you to sustain any kind of force on this grip in a circular fashion like this. I use the term with my students all the time, I want you to pull the grip off the shaft. I want you to pull it around the corner, because if you can sustain force longer on that grip around the corner, you will have a much quieter, stable club face. And in your case, we see the opposite there. We see the hand path being thrown out away from your body, kind of in this direction. And then when that's happening, you're left with nothing but that sort of roll, release, follow through, to where you see a lot of club face roll. And again, from this face on view, there's the roll. And that's just simply coming from the fact that the body isn't turned. The body isn't rotated. The shoulders are closed and the hips are not rotated enough because of the push off of this right leg. It's shoving everything forward. And so in the golf swing, we're basically trying to manage three forces. We're trying to manage a rotary force, so that would be the rotation of our body. We're trying to manage a lateral force, that would be the slide of our body. And then lastly, we're trying to manage a vertical force, so pushing out of the ground with both legs. And so in this case, you have too much of this horizontal force and not enough of the rotary force to quiet that club face down. The good news is you don't need to tinker with your arm structure. You don't need to change your your wrist alignments. The club face alignments look very, very good. We basically just need to build better inclination in the backswing. I want you to feel like when you turn and rotate, you're going to move this right hip up and back behind you, and you're essentially going to stretch out everything from your right ankle all the way up through your hip and your rib cage into your right shoulder. And so you can see that you're not very stretched right there. So I'd like to see the pelvis a little more this way and a little more behind you. And it starts with obviously you getting this left knee to break in behind the golf ball, very much like we showed you in the Snead video. So hope this helps you. Let's get this lower body inclination dialed in, and I think we'll see a much quieter club face in the downswing and in the follow through.